New head of the U.S. Border Patrol coming from right here in San Diego. More on his history leading up to the big promotion. New details about the Iranian attacks on bases holding U.S. troops. The impact those attacks had, bigger than previously thought. And police asking for the public's help to catch a person seen on video moments before lighting a destructive fire in Talmadge. 10 News Midday starts now.
Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
Trump administration naming a new head of the U.S. Border Patrol. Rodney Scott is being promoted from the San Diego sector. I'm Jim Patton. Virginia Chaw is off this midday. 10 News reporter Natay Holmes joins us live from the San Ysidro Port of Entry. And Natay, Scott has been with the Border Patrol some 3 decades, spending most of his time here in San Diego.
That's right. Rodney Scott is a 27-year veteran with the Border Patrol, and he was elevated to San Diego Sector Chief in 2017, and now he's taking his experience to Washington, D.C. Now, the Customs and Border Protection officials announced this morning Scott will be taking over for Carla Provost, who is retiring. Now, Scott was also seen at times with President Trump as he visited the U.S.-Mexico border here in San Diego. In a statement released by CBP Acting Commissioner Mark Morgan, it says in part, Chief Scott brings an exceptional depth and breadth of experience and knowledge about the border security mission and commitment to service the nation. Now, the San Diego sector has 2,200 agents and 60 miles of border shared with Mexico, but Scott will now be head of the agency, which totals 19,000 agents. Now, current Chief Provost will be retiring at the end of the month. Live in San Ysidro, Natay Holmes, 10 News.
Natay, thank you. New details about that missile attack at Iran launched against bases housing U.S. troops. Pentagon now saying 34 American service members suffered traumatic brain injuries in that attack. The January 8th attack was launched in retaliation to the U.S. drone strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Initially, coalition forces said several people had suffered concussions. The Department of Defense says in some cases, troops didn't report symptoms until days later. 18 of the 34 who were injured were taken out of Iraq for medical treatment, and several of those have since returned to the U.S. Well, this morning, researchers in San Diego joining efforts to get a handle on the coronavirus as it spreads across the globe. Scripps Research in La Jolla beginning research on the virus, trying to figure out details about how and when it is transmitted. This as a second case is reported here in the U.S. ABC's Trevor Ault has more.
Health officials are racing to contain the spread of the coronavirus, the mystery virus from China that's already spread to at least 10 countries and territories, infecting more than 880 people and claiming the lives of at least 26.
This situation is evolving quickly, and I do expect more cases in the United States, as well as human-to-human transmission.
Officials in California, Tennessee, and Texas now testing patients for possible infection in the U.S. The Illinois Health Department reporting today the second confirmed case of coronavirus in an American. Authorities saying this is a travel-related case.
The patient is a woman in her 60s. Most importantly, I'm pleased to report that she is clinically doing well and is in stable condition.
One patient already confirmed to have the virus in Washington state. A man in his 30s kept in isolation at the hospital while state health officials are monitoring more than 40 people that came in close contact with him. The State Department now issuing a travel advisory for China, urging Americans not to travel to certain areas because of the risk of the coronavirus. While in China, Shanghai Disneyland shut down and revered cultural sites closed until further notice, and massive quarantines in several cities, including Wuhan, believed to be ground zero for the outbreak.
Quarantining a city of 11 million, as well as a couple of other cities in China, that's never been done before.
Top health officials met with senators ahead of the impeachment trial today to give them the latest updates on the coronavirus, though the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease says this isn't something the U.S. public should worry about just yet. Trevor Ault, ABC News, New York.
New today, a man in the hospital after a car flew off the 5 freeway in Chula Vista and hit him before it burst into flames. Crash happened about 2 this morning. Police say the driver was heading south on the 5 when her car veered off the right shoulder, went across the J Street on-ramp, and landed on an embankment. Witness says it was her boyfriend who was hit by the car when it landed. He was taken to a hospital. The driver was able to crawl from the wreckage and was also taken to a hospital. Cause of that crash is under investigation. Overnight, firefighters discovering a grow lab inside a San Carlos home after battling a fire there. Fire crews got to the home on Jackson Drive around 11:30 last night, found the side of the home engulfed in flames. They were able to knock it down quickly, but once inside, they discovered that grow lab, but didn't specify exactly what was being grown there. Arson investigators are now looking into the fire, and 2 people at the home were being questioned by police. New developments in a weekend fire that destroyed an alteration business in Talmadge. Investigators are now looking for the man accused of setting that fire. Crime Stoppers has just released this video showing a man ride up to AA Alterations on El Cajon Boulevard back on January 12th. He's riding a bike, and you can see him set something on the ground before there is some type of explosion. The fire completely destroyed the business that is owned by Ann Chan. Chan talked to us after the fire and says all her money went into opening the store 4 years ago. A $1,000 reward is being offered for information about the suspect. Well, right now, Democrats wrapping up their opening arguments in the Senate impeachment trial. And today, the focus on the president's alleged obstruction of Congress. ABC's Serena Marshall is in Washington with more on the proceedings.
The third and final day for House Democrats to make their case against the president.
This conduct is not America first. It is Donald Trump first.
Thursday, hammering senators with a torrent of information on how they believe the president abused his power like no other in U.S. history, with a prebuttal to one of the president's expected defenses, that he was concerned about Ukrainian corruption.
President Trump wanted these investigations done solely to help his personal political interests and not the national interest.
He only cared about the personal political benefit.
A pressure campaign House prosecutors say began just 2 months after Joe Biden entered the 2020 race, and
it wasn't until Biden began beating him in the polls that he called for the investigation.
Mr. Trump's legal team say abuse of power, as outlined by the Democrats, is not a crime and is therefore not impeachable.
The actions alleged and the actions of the president do not reach that level, no matter which school of thought you're on.
But Democrats anticipating that argument, showing the 100 senators arguments made during the 90s from members of the president's own team, his attorney general and top Trump ally, Lindsey Graham.
I think that's what they meant by high crimes. Doesn't even have to be a crime.
Graham not in the room at that moment, but other senators listening closely to these arguments. Lamar Alexander saying the Democrats have done a good job presenting, and we have a lot to consider. While some say it's time to move on.
It is the same thing day after day after day.
Today, moving past abuse to how they believe he obstructed Congress.
The president's defense gets underway on Saturday, but the media-savvy president clearly upset by that timing, tweeting out Saturday is the death valley in TV. But remember, the rules and the timing voted in by the Republican majority. On Capitol Hill, Serena Marshall, ABC News.
And we are airing the proceedings live on ABC 10, but you can stay with us right here on your streaming device as we continue with your local news.